Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto, where we come to transform ourselves and each other and the world. As you can see, I'm broadcasting from my home today rather than church. Power and internet were a little iffy in Palo Alto, so we're so glad that you're able to join us despite whatever might have happened with your power last night. And nothing better could illustrate that we are the church, we are the congregation wherever we gather. And regardless from where we are phoning in, from Columbia, Missouri, from Southern California, from all over this morning, it's good to be together. So let's hear each other's voices. If you can unmute yourself for a moment, we'll hear each other say hello, greetings before we return to the rest of our service. Hello.
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 Morning.
Greetings.
Good to see you.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello to everybody else.
Good morning.
Hi,
So glad
Diane.
so many have made it despite the storms and all.
We don't have.
Wonderful. So glad you can be here. I know some of you are probably on battery power, and I really appreciate your double devotion in being here. You can see the order of service by following the link in the chat. That link is also available from our website if the chat is not available to you. For example, if you're here on Facebook Live, good morning. And lots of announcements there, but I just want to particularly call your attention to next Sunday, 12:30 to 2. If you can swing by Palo Alto and bring me a little vial of water, I'll be able to share it in our service on August 30th. There's more instructions linked from the order of service on how to share your message as well as your water. Or if you're not able to share water physically, how to share your message anyway so that you're part of that ritual. So please do follow those links. Lots and lots going on, as you can see at UUCPA if you follow the links from the order of service. Another announcement, we are very glad to hear from our next door neighbor and this month's Justice Partner, Ability Path.
Hello, I'm Anne Marie. I work for Ability Path, formerly Abilities United and Gate Path, who merged last fall. Our combined organization changed its name this summer to better convey our mission. Through educational, therapeutic, and vocational programs, we empower children and adults with developmental disabilities to achieve their full potential. We are your neighbor. One of our largest program sites is right across the street from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto. Our adult services program has volunteered with the Unitarian Church for over 10 years. Unfortunately, our activity and involvement in the community has been halted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, we have converted many of our services for adults with developmental disabilities to a virtual format with remote support and online classes. Online classes include music, fitness, science, art, social clubs, meditation, and wellness, just to name a few. However, many of the folks we serve are not able to connect with us virtually due to lack of equipment, internet connection, or assistance in their home. So, we have been delivering activity packets to more than 70 adults at their home on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Activity packets include self-guided activities and the materials needed to do it. Our staff connects with the individual or a supporting family member by phone to provide guidance on these activities as needed. The activity packets include things like worksheets on voting rights or home exercises, arts and craft supplies, and instructions for things like self-guided games or preparing a snack at home. You can help adults with developmental disabilities continue to learn and to stay meaningfully engaged during this very challenging time. Other ways you can get involved are to join us for a weekly Lunch Buddies Zoom call with the adults we serve, or you can lend your voice to advocacy campaigns to benefit those we serve. You can learn more at abilitypath.org/get-involved.
Thank you, Anne Marie. We're lucky to have you as neighbors. And now, let us begin our service. We light our chalice with the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists, ICU2's Global Chalice Lighting, written by the Comunione Unitariana Italiana. Breath of the universe, gentle and strong, revive the flame of our resilient souls. Breathe new life into desolate hearts, prisoners of pain and fear of the future. Return to blow over the tumultuous waters of our history and give them a direction. As morning light, remove the darkness from our eyes and inspire the mind of every human being so that it may understand the folly of barriers dictated by ignorance and selfishness. Help us feel free to collaborate better in the construction of meaning on which we work together. With our centering words each week, we draw on one of the sources of our living tradition. This week's words come from the philosopher Elizabeth A. Benke. There is deep wisdom within our very flesh if we can only come to our senses and feel it. Let us now follow the sound of the bell into silence. Will you please join in as Bruce leads us in singing Spirit of Life? The words are in your order of service.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Sharpie, you were going to show me some kind of spiritual practice that uses words. That's right. And you're looking for a spiritual practice that will help you feel less stressed out. Right. This time we're going to try prayer. I don't think prayer is for me. I don't believe in God. You don't have to believe in God. Some prayers are directed at a God or a deity, but there are also centering prayers, prayers for thanks like saying grace, prayers to express concern for others, prayers to ancestors, and petitionary prayers, which form an interesting philosophical puzzle that... Sharpie, stop! You're getting all intellectual again. I'll keep this practical. You like talking, right? Right. Well, some prayers are like short poems which you can memorize, then say out loud when you need them. So it's a kind of talking, and it can be very calming. Oh, what are you two doing? Oh, hi, Elephant. I'm going to memorize a prayer to help me feel calmer. I love to memorize, and I need to feel calm. Can I try? Sure. Here's the first Unitarian Universalist poem that I think works well as a centering prayer. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do.
I'm going to memorize this one.
Here's the other Unitarian Universalist poem that works as a centering prayer. They drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took them in. That's the one for me. How did it go?
And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Seeing this has made me feel calmer, Sharpie, because it tells me I don't have to fix everything.
How about you, Possum? I can't memorize things. I guess I failed at this spiritual practice too. Did it make you feel better to just read it out loud? Yeah, sometimes people try to shut me out, but this reminds me that love is more powerful than trying to shut people out. Did this spiritual practice work for you? Yeah, but can we try another one? Next week I'll have something new for you. I can't wait!
I'm thinking that a great auction item would be, you get to take Possum home to live with you for a week. I would pay good money just to have Possum with me for a little while. This is our chance to share our joys and sorrows with one another. If you'd like to share them in the chat, I'll speak them aloud so everyone can hear them. You can also send them to me at joyconcern@uucpa.org right now, if you haven't sent one already. And I will check back and forth and read whatever appears in my inbox as well. Whew, a lot. Let's take a moment now of silence to hold in prayer, or as Dr. Sharpie-Ann says, that can take many forms, regardless of what you believe. You can hold people in prayer and meditation. Just some silent time, a moment in which I often visualize the spirit of concern, the sort of light within me expanding out so that my compassion can take in all that I touch. And the broader our light can go, the greater our compassion and our connection to others. However you use this meditation time, let's enter some quiet together. May all who have cause to celebrate today feel their joys grow a little sweeter by our sharing them. May all those who are suffering fear or pain feel comforted by our presence together. Blessed be. Now, several choir members, before Bruce's operation, joined him to bring us a special version of Come Sing a Song With Me. Will you sing along?
20 questions. Did I forget to look at the sky this morning when I first woke up? Did I miss the willow tree? The white gravel road, white gravel road that goes up from the cemetery, but to where? And the abandoned house on the hill. Did it get even a moment? Did I notice the small clouds slowly moving away? And did I think of the right hand of God? What if it is a slow cloud descending on earth as rain, as snow, as shade? Don't you think I should move on now to the mop? How it just sits there, too often unused. And the stolen rose on its stem. Why would I write a poem without one? Wouldn't it be wrong not to mention joy, sadness, its sleepy-eyed twin? If I'd caught the boat to Mykonos that time when I was 19, would the moon have risen out of the sea and shone on my life so clearly I would have loved it just as it was? Is the boat still in the harbor, pointing out to the open sea? Am I still 19? Going in or going out, can I let the tide make of me what it must? Did I already ask that?
Thank you, Brian, for so beautifully sharing that beautiful poem. We're going to have a little meditation time now before our questions and attempts at answers. Sometimes if we settle into a comfortable position and close our eyes, things emerge that we're usually too busy to notice. Or if you're more the active type, like Possum, do whatever helps you to get into a place of receptivity. Get comfortable, close your eyes, move around and stretch. Let your breath go out and come in. In a few moments, you'll have the opportunity to put a question into the chat or into an email. Maybe a question has already risen out of the silence or the music or the sharing for you. Maybe you have that tip of the tongue feeling. You know you had a question you really wanted to ask and now you can't think of it. Best not to chase it. It will come back eventually, and whenever it does, today or some other time. You can ask it out loud then. Maybe you think you ought to have a question and the ought is chasing all the questions away. Try to let ought and should go. Questions will come of their own accord. Maybe there's a question that's been bothering you for a long time, or maybe one just popped into your head. And questions make more questions, so maybe one will come to you as you hear what other people ask. Let's just sit quietly and see if any questions come quietly into the silent space that we've made. Now, if you have a question to ask, please put it in the chat, or if email works better, or you'd like me not to share your identity as a questioner, send it to parishmin@uccpa.org. min@uucpa.org. Parish, min, @uucpa.org. I'll get to as many of them as I can during the time we usually spend on the sermon. And I'll keep checking back to the chat. We have a question from Mary Gravenkemper. How would you describe Unitarian Universalism to someone who is not familiar with it in 3 to 4 sentences? Well, first of all, I think we all should have our own way of doing this. Oh, there's a should. It's really good to know how to answer this question, because people are often looking for sort of what do we believe? And that's not usually the best place to start with Unitarian Universalism, because we don't all believe the same things. And that's a good thing to tell people, but I think giving a positive answer is better than giving a what we don't do. So what I usually say is something like this. I say we believe that in looking for the wisdom that we need to live well, to find meaning and truth and ethical guidance for our life, we can draw on many, many sources, all the religions of the world, all the so-called secular sources like science and nature and art and our own experience. So we as Unitarian Universalists draw on all those sources and try to pull the best from them and share them with each other. And we have different things that guide each of us. Some of us believe in God, some do not, for example. But we share our different paths and find that we learn a great deal from each other in order to be better people. I try to say something like that. I'd love to hear what you all say. I think that's a really good one. Oh my goodness, this is so wonderful. It's just like getting these little piles of paper that I usually do in order. By the way, if I can't get to all of these today, they guide me through the year, and I often come back to question box questions to dig into them with more time with a sermon on just one question. Greg Williams asks, what is a good way to engage with somebody who's conventionally religious? Well, with respect and listening, I would say. Ask them about themselves, ask them what they believe. It gets more complicated if they're trying to convince you or judge you. But even so, I think beginning with attentive listening and respect is usually a wise start for anybody, especially talking about something as tender to them as their religious beliefs. Stasha would like to know why Stuffies love Dan so much. This might be a question for Dan or for the Stuffies. I can only say, and very appropriately to my the last question that I just answered, I find Dan is a really good listener. He has a great sense of humor. He's very respectful of people and of Stuffies. So I really like to talk to him just because I know that that he's paying attention and cares about what I have to say. I bet the Stuffies like that too, but that would be a great question to maybe ask them. I'd like to know why Stuffies love Stasha so much, and I bet there's a similar answer there. Marianne Newworth asks, in this current time, which of the 7 deadly sins do I think is the most egregious and why? Okay, this feels like a quiz. Can I remember all the 7 deadly sins? I mean, the one that's popping into my head, and I guess that's the one that I find most egregious a lot of the time, is greed. I think a lot of the suffering that we visit upon one another and upon our world is the sin, if you will, of taking more than is our share, of feeling that we need more than we really need, and disguising our wants, our desires of the moment as things that we really need. And that goes for all of us, not just the robber barons and the pillagers. I know, looking around myself, I use more resources than I need. And as we know, that ultimately means we taking from one another and from the earth. Indigo Morgenstern, who wants to know, how do you decide what to trust? That's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, I think it's something we learn over time, over and over, by trying to trust and sometimes having our trust betrayed. I just know it's been really important to me in my life. Sometimes I've trusted too much. I've trusted, for example, people I shouldn't have. You know, people whose trust proved not to be trustworthy. They turned out to be mean or unkind or lied in some way. And other times I haven't trusted enough, and I've passed up chances for friendship because I wasn't willing to be vulnerable. So I think, as with most relationships, you kind of try to risk a little more, You don't risk it all. You don't entrust your whole life savings to somebody you barely know. But you try to open your heart a little bit more to people bit by bit, and learn whom you can trust. Sometimes you learn it the hard way, unfortunately. Christy Iverson wants to know, what do I most appreciate about doing services online, and what do I most miss about being in person? Boy, this is a question I'd love to ask all of you too, so do let me know. Well, one thing I really appreciate is I feel like I've gotten to know a whole new crop of volunteers. I know the tech crew is busy chatting away on a phone call that I'm not in on during the service, and they're getting to know each other well. But to a lesser degree, I feel like I'm getting to know them, and that's really, really nice. Just a different crew. And excuse me, right today, I just love the comfort of quote unquote broadcasting from my own home, but I like it better when I'm from church in our significant place. So the comfort only goes so far. But really what I appreciate the most is that we are reaching people who live far away. People like Miriam, who moved away a long time ago, Audrey, who's just moved since the pandemic began, and yet she can still join us. Folks like Jessalyn coming in from college, where she's back. So I hope we'll see Jessalyn again from Pittsburgh. That's just wonderful that we have this wider reach. And also people closer to home who have trouble getting to church, who I didn't realize how much that was a barrier for them. That they weren't going to be able to accept rides on Sunday morning, but they can check in online. And I know there's still people who are excluded. So that's one of the things I miss the most. I want to make sure everybody's connected online who possibly can be, so they're not missing out. And what I miss most is chatting with people after the service, actually being able to check in with people who bring up joys and sorrows. I try to call people who bring up something big, but there's nothing like just being able to touch a shoulder or check in eye to eye with people and hug people. That's rough. Again, please tell us. We'll mitigate all that we can during this time. So please tell me what you miss, what you like, what we could be doing more of. Shoot me an email. Barbara Schonborn wants to know, how do you teach a child to adapt to change? Oh, that really comes more easily to some of us than to others, doesn't it? I mean, some people just seem to be born more adaptable. That's part of our temperament, and some are really easily thrown by change. And I guess with most things with kids, I think just really accepting and affirming people for who they are really, really helps, that they know that they've got you as a solid person, no matter what, especially if they're having trouble dealing with change. They know you're not judging them, you're not angry at them, you don't think less of them because they have trouble adapting, so that you're a solid anchor from which they can adventure out, and just be really patient. And then maybe accompany them a little bit. Oh, we're trying something new. Would you like me to go with you? Literally, go someplace, or, do you want to tell me about it? Older kids, of course, you can ask them a little bit about what they're frightened of. Younger kids, I think you just have to kind of be there and let them know they're going to, as much as possible, they're going to decide what they need to experience. And you're not going to throw them into any situation that's really terrifying, unless you have to. Linda Hennigan wants to know, did that thunder and lightning storm last night spark any mystical or sacred thoughts or ideas? Not for me. I'd love to know if anybody had a mystical idea. I know I love it. I mostly slept through the whole thing. I was just aware enough that there was a thunderstorm going on to be happy about it and wonder if the stuff that we have under our deck was staying dry, not wide enough awake to go do anything about it. I do love the feeling. Thunderstorms are special, aren't they? In that they're one of those wonderful experiences of nature being so powerful and so beyond our control, and yet usually not threatening. Not like a flood or an earthquake, which lets us know that in a really, really scary way. Despite my cat's terror, I know thunderstorms are not actually very dangerous. So I can just enjoy nature's might at that moment. I suppose that's a sacred thought of a kind. Valerie Villarreal asks, America seems at risk of being taken by anti-science, religion-infused populism that risks our health and environment. Boy, you said a mouthful. How can we help mainstream society, the electorate, see science and spirituality to coexist? What a great question. I think that's really something we offer, isn't it? I think there is still a very common popular idea that religion and science are competitors, including on the left as well as the right. There's certainly sort of rationalists such as the new atheists, Richard Dawkins and Daniel Dennett and so on, who don't buy that we have a good balance, who think that, you know, we must be giving into superstition or something and abandoning our commitment to science. I think we really, really hold both in our tradition, and that's a wonderful witness to the world. So we're small, but I think saying that wherever comment sections, right? Oh, God help us, wherever that pops up to say, you know, I am a person of faith, and in my religion, I do not have to choose between religion and science. It all fits together. That's my Unitarian Universalist faith, and hope that it sinks into people. Some will not believe us. They'll believe we're actually superstitious or we're not really religious, but some will check us out and have that model. It's nice to know that maybe we can contribute something there. I know I probably have things on email. I will go and check them in just a moment. Don't worry if you've emailed me something. Karen Scold asks, being a minister means giving of your heart and soul always. How do you restore yourself when you feel drained? Do you have suggestions for us based on your experience? What a lovely, sensitive question, Karen. Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been at this a long time, and I find that a lot of my recharging comes from the work itself, kind of like a hybrid car battery. I get charged as I roll along. Not only, I need just plain rest and time with my family and time alone and so on also. A time when I'm on a real break from all my work. But a lot of it just comes from conversations with folks at church and everything, and our moments of in the service together. That gives me such a boost. So I think what I've learned from everybody from this that I can pass on to everybody is, you know, really pay attention to what causes you stress, and instead of feeling like it shouldn't or anything like that, you know, as I think ministers can feel like sometimes, oh, I should give myself to all of this. It shouldn't make me feel tired. It's good work. Of course it makes you feel tired. As you say, if you give your heart and soul, of course it can be draining sometimes. So really pay attention and don't rob yourself of that. So whatever that is for you, pay attention and know yourself. And you're lucky if you're pretty introverted like me, and in this time, what peps you up is just being in your garden or reading or being with your family, the people who you already live with. You're really lucky if that recharges you, and I'm lucky that way. If what recharges you is going to a rock concert or a crowded place, this is not such a good time for you, and you're going to have to find substitutes for that. But it's all about knowing yourself and do it. Don't shortchange yourself. That's the word I was looking for. Shortchange. Don't shortchange yourself. You can't keep giving of yourself if you're feeling drained. Florence Haas has a wonderful answer. No committee meeting was needed. Nature just spoke out. There you go. That's your answer for thunder and lightning. Weija Chang asks, what can help someone live in the present when they are losing their sense of optimism about the future? I think for me, some history helps. Recognizing that people have been through very terrible times, have had a really grim picture of their own future, the world's future, their society's future at many times in human history. And they have maintained a sense of optimism enough to go on and leave us whatever evidence we have of that, their writings, their art, and so on. So for me, reading fiction of the past, reading history really, really helps to recognize, oh, here they were just like us. And this is what they endured and this is what they gave us. That helps me keep a sense of perspective. And then maybe focusing less on the future and just, I do this so badly myself, but try to focus on something that puts you in the present. Again, I mean, it's really hard to just think present. I'm not like Possum. I can't sort of sit and meditate and be there. Maybe that works for you, but maybe just doing something that engages you fully, making music, doing something with your hands, something that really connects you to here I am right now. Something that engages the senses, I think tends to do that more for all of us, can maybe do that better. Eric Beer asks, which charities particularly deserve our support at this time? Oh, Lord. Honestly, I don't have any particular guidance. You can all ask each other that question, but I think they all need it. And whatever you feel is, for whatever reason, tugs at your sense of what is suffering most, where the help is most needed. It's not being provided by usual sources like big foundations or the government or something, or these are the people who always get left out, or the beings who always get left out. Give there. Honestly, there's enough to go around. I will note as a general observation, Unitarian Universalists as a class, upper class liberal people as a class, give a great deal to things like the arts and education, their own educational, your own alumni associations and so on. Those are all really good, but be aware that sometimes other kind of charitable organizations miss out from us in contrast. So if that's your tendency, you might think about who are the places you're not necessarily personally connected to, but are really doing great work in the world. Brian asks, what if the right hand of God was that rain cloud that descended on the Bay Area this morning? What if it was? Lovely thought. Reverend Dan mentioned we might have an all-church sing-along over Zoom. Is that going to happen? I do not know. Dan, I know, is listening, so Dan, shoot us an update at some point. You all know the technological difficulties with singing together. Dan and Bruce have done as much as anybody here to research what are some options for that, and I know Dan is part of some musical groups that have found some ways to make music together despite the built-in lag of video conferencing. So, and I also know that's a really big part of Dan's social life and, dare I say, spiritual practice. Correct me if I'm not, Dan. So he'll let us know. But sounds like we're due for an update, whether or not that is soon to come. I'm seeing lots of great observations. Want to check. Prashant has some great advice about parenting, and I will just say, because I really love How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk, those other books are now on my to-read list. Checking for questions. I'm loving all the conversations. So I hope everybody who can't see the chat because it's going by too fast, save it for yourself and check it later. You can just do that with copy and paste. Bum, 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 bum. Lots of charities being suggested, for example. Okay, let me check my email. I have a question here, and I won't share your name unless you tell me it's okay. I'm not sure if these are anonymous or not. What are your views on money? It seems to play a major role in the choices in my life. How did you view the importance of money in your lives when you chose your career and such? Oh, such good questions. I was really, I think, lucky. One, that I had a solid financial background. My parents didn't have a lot of money, but in those days and with their circumstances, I could go through college, for example, and not come out with too much in the way of student loans. And I had parents who rather blithely just encouraged me to do what I wanted to do and not worry too much about money. I realized very much that's class privilege speaking, but I also appreciate that I was being told to trust that I could earn the money that I needed to, and I should do what I loved. So from my parents and also just from some books and ideas that I absorbed pretty early on, like in my late teens, I really formed a commitment to do the work that I loved. And not that money wouldn't be a consideration, but that I was never thinking, oh, first thing is I just have to earn a lot of money. I had the idea that I just needed to earn enough money to pay the rent, so to speak. And I'm really, really glad about that because it meant that I just waded into the work that I really loved. And I had to take time off from seminary, for example, because I really could not afford to keep being in school and going into this career that might or might not give me the money I needed to repay my loans. So I've been very fortunate that it played out, and I don't want to be glib about it. But fortunately, thanks to getting this job, for example, I've been able to manage. That's what I really want to give everybody. And it has had a huge effect on my political views, that I feel like everybody should have a firm enough floor under them that they can give to the world what their talents call them to give, and not think, oh, I can't do XYZ valuable thing because it doesn't pay. That's a terrible thing to learn. And I also really hope that we can raise all the kids in our congregation to know they don't have to be rich to be okay, to be solid financially. They just need to be able to pay for their necessities, and the rest is lovely if you can have some luxuries on top of that. I think that really frees up a lot of your choices. And I think one of the ironies of growing up in a very wealthy place like Palo Alto is people think they feel like they don't have a lot of choices because they have to be rich to be happy. And that's a very sad and limiting thing to feel. All right, I could go on a lot about this, but that's been quite enough, a long enough answer. Money, such a big question. This is not really this question, but somebody is asking the question that the passcode is incorrect. All I know is I got on with the passcode 039225. So do try it again. I'm sorry you're shut out. One possible other question. I think I'm getting all these. Sorry, I'm reading. I know it's boring to watch me read, but I will be through with an exciting answer soon. Someone shares, I find myself angry nearly every day. The news is so appalling. How are you dealing with so much negative emotion? What do I suggest? Oh, again, you might better learn from not doing what I do. I spend too much time on the news, too much time engaging with things and people who make me angry. I think I still have this myth in my mind that I'm going to convince them, that someone is wrong on the internet problem. So I know what we should both be doing. I don't mean ignore negative stuff. Negative stuff is here, and it's a very big part of what is really happening in the world. So I'm not a big fan of like not watching the news or something like that. But I do think paying attention to the positive vision. Look at who is doing the things that you want to see done in the world and broadcast those and engage with those and say, oh, I want more of that, you know. Look at the candidates you like, the people who are doing the things in the world that you like, and make more of that instead of saying less of this and this, especially the things that we feel pretty helpless to do anything about. And there's a magazine called Yes Magazine. Is it still going? That engages with these things, but for a positive, seeks out positive things. Who's doing things that really help? It's not just sort of feel good things. It's here's a way of creating better housing in poor communities that's really working. It's such a good way to be engaged in the world, but not getting bogged down in anger. Really tough one. Here's a really powerful anonymous question. When do you choose to return no one evil for evil? That's a quote from our benediction. Return no one evil for evil versus protecting yourself. Well, although it might not look like it to them, I think protecting yourself, actual defensive action, you know, emotionally or physically, is not usually harming somebody. They may say it is, they may feel it is because they can't do everything they want to do. And they see that as the exercise of their freedom. They see it as interacting with you in the way they want to interact with you. But you get to protect yourself. And it is not actually doing somebody harm to say this far and no farther. I think an awful lot, we can do an awful lot just with firmer boundaries, physical and emotional, around ourselves. And if people feel like that is harming them, usually that's on them. It's not up to you to make people feel better. I'm sorry, I may not be addressing the kind of thing you're thinking at all, and I'd love to talk more privately if you want. Oh, let us see. I might have missed some as I left the chat, so I'm back. Valerie asks again, do we hope to grow UU membership much during these remote times? I don't, but we have had some new members like you, Valerie and Cesar. Wonderful to have you. And I know it's harder to engage and get to know people. Normally people would be in small groups and so on. That's what we encourage. And it's just harder to get integrated into a community in this time. So do everybody click on those rainbow colored links at the beginning of your order of service and stay engaged with each other. That's not about growing our membership. It's about caring for each other and having a strong community during this time. It is about time for me to wrap up. But I hope I was able to take in most of your questions. And thank you for asking them. They're so wonderful. And you hear a lot from me, but I really, really need to hear back from you all to know what's on your mind and what's in your heart. So keep letting me know all around the year, please. Let us now take our time to support the work of this liberal religious community, which once a month we do by directing all of our giving toward an organization that's our partner in the community. So today, of course, that's Ability Path. Everything you give, unless you specifically designate otherwise, will go to Ability Path and the wonderful work they do for our shared vision in Palo Alto and beyond. So please, if you can, give generously. Please join me in singing with heart and mind. The words are, again, in your order of service. We extinguish our chalice with words from John Brigham. Go your ways, knowing not the answers to all things, yet seeking always the answer to one more thing than you know. I invite you now to unmute yourself and turn on your video so we can all see and hear each other in our chaotic way during our benediction. Please stay after the benediction and we'll be randomly assigned to breakout rooms. And an invitation after you share pronouns with everyone in your breakout room to make sure everyone knows everyone. Perhaps you can ask each other a question, either one that you posed or one that you didn't pose during the service, and see what other answers people have. The rooms will stay open for about half an hour. Now let us say our benediction together. Go
Go
out
out
into the world
in
in
peace.
peace.
Be a good courage. Hold fast
Fast to what is good.
return
Return
Turn no
one
one
evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. The suffering.
love.
With love, word, and deed. Honor all beings.
Thank you.
Thank you.